Hey everyone, Ryan here, and I just want to talk about starting your own podcast. I was a newbie, and still am, and know how intimidating it could be to start your own show. It's because of this, no matter all the other options out there, that I chose Anchor. So Anchor hosts your podcast, distributes your episodes to all the big hitters such as Spotify, Apple, and Google, and it even has recording tools to make a show on the spot without any additional software, and that's pretty sick. Not only that, but it gives you a nice little podcast website too, if you don't have one. Not to mention that there are opportunities to make money no matter the size of your audience. Sounds awesome and easy, right? It is. See for yourself. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, now let's get back to chatting about games, huh? Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Couch Cat Podcast. I'm your host Ryan, and tonight I am joined by once again my best friend Trung. What's up, Trung? Glad to have you back in the studio, man.
It's great to be here. The upgraded lawn chair instead of being in the closets is pretty nice.
Thanks, dude. I scoured all over the place for it, and then come to find out that the studio is still smaller than how we left it. So the lawn chair is halfway sticking out the door and halfway in the living room. So I don't want you to put yourself on a high horse just yet. That now that you can actually sit down. But yeah, I'm glad you're comfortable.
Yeah, at least I can sit down.
You're not in the closet with the llama.
Yeah, I missed the llama.
So it's been a while since you've been on. And for those of you who haven't listened to the episodes with Trung and I, just a couple down, we've discussed, free to play MMORPGs and JRPGs because that's kind of like our bread and butter. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that's basically how we grew up, just hanging out with each other, was playing through these games and talking about them like we are now.
Yep. Yeah, like we are now. Purely nostalgic, never letting go of the past.
This is
And
how we
that's
like to live life.
yeah, it's not a bad thing. I mean, professionals will tell you it's a bad thing, but you're here to hear it's not a bad thing. But yeah, anything new with you, Trung, that you want to discuss? That you want to tell everyone?
No, not really. I'm still playing JRPGs and stuff like Genshin Impact.
Oh my god. Is that like would you say that's the main game you're playing right now?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. I'll just go ahead. I'm still playing simple MMO. Uh which is one of our biggest like content, drivers here, what we create here at Couch Cat. But I'm also trying a new mobile MMO, and it's Idle On. And friend of the show, Ogle, showed me it, and I've been playing it ever since I had to go for a little business trip last week. So it's cool. I like it. It's just another idle game where uh, you have your character and there's classes and you're gaining exp and resources while you're not really playing the game. You can step away for hours at a time. So I dig it. I dig it. But yeah, with that out of the way, so this episode I brought Trunk back forcefully. He didn't want to be here.
Yeah, I'm in chains right now.
Exactly, to the lawn chair. It's an easy thing to do. I'll post a guide later on YouTube. But we're going to be talking about MapleStory, which we briefly discussed in our free-to-play MMORPG episode. And just to jot your memory, MapleStory is a Korean MMORPG. I'm just going to read it to you verbatim because that is the easiest thing to do without messing everything up. So, MapleStory is a free-to-play 2D side-scrolling massively multiplayer online role-playing game developed by South Korean company Wizit. And the version we played was for the US, and it was through Nexon, one of the publishing companies. And in MapleStory, in this game, you players travel the Maple world, quote unquote, defeating monsters, developing their character skills and abilities, just like any RPG. Players, of course, interacted with each other with chatting, trading, guilds, parties, all the bells and whistles, through dungeons and quests, PvE, just PvE shit in general, right?
There was no PvP at the time.
it was one of the first games for me that I truly noticed like a shop system, with in-game currency. I think we even talked about this in the free MMO episode. Like you like sponsored me like a haircut because I was like that game. MapleStory back then was pretty much all about cosmetics in the beginning. And that's when, if I look back, that's one of the first games I actually notice. Besides like Gunbound and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I really noticed in an MMO at least for a free game. But yeah, so Trung, you pretty much led me to MapleStory, so I'm gonna let you kick it off and talk about like the first moments in the game and like what pulled you to that game in general.
What pulled me to the game?
Yeah,
I don't really know. One day I just was googling games because I was bored of RuneScape and stuff, and I was like, "Hey, free MMORPGs playing to play online." And then I found MapleStory, and the first thing that caught my eye was how colorful the game was. So,
yeah,
and then since I'm really into anime, the characters look very chibi. They're like the short little characters, like miniature characters, and I was like, "Hey, this is a cool art style." And then I noticed there were like the class systems and everything. I thought that was really cool too, because I wasn't traditionally known to play like class type RPG MMORPGs at the time.
yeah. Like I mean, like RuneScape, right? You pretty much built your character how you wanted
Yeah,
it.
like there was no actual archetype on what you had to stick to, and you had like no real specialty that's different from everybody else.
Yeah, just like the skills or talents you wanted to level up or grind.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk about how you're just googling stuff. Do you remember? I think it's still around the website. It's like mmorpg.com, and like it just had like lists on lists of like all these free MMO RPGs to play.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I remember it had like that like sand or like beige color, and I just remember scrolling endlessly, like, oh man, what do I play next? And that's where like I would just download a game and then play the tutorial and be like, God, this sucks, and then move on.
yeah, pretty much. Like that was basically our ritual, is to check that website and then see
Yeah,
the same like 20 things always on the front page, and then just get
yeah,
bored and just go back to playing whatever we were playing.
yeah. So, like I say, you were the first. I mean, to my knowledge, out of our friend group to play the game. Who who joined you initially? Like, was I a part of that, or did Gene come
Yes,
first?
technically Gene was first,
Okay.
but then you came right after. Like it wasn't like a day before we recruited you two, to be honest.
Yeah, and just to jog people's memory, Gene's our mutual friend, one of our best friends, that we played these games with. That's like the three of us were pretty much game hopping, right? So,
Yeah, we consider ourselves the three amigos. We're inseparable.
yeah, Gene and I have a similar tattoo on our ankles too. It's beautiful, and Trung's like, I don't want that.
I don't want nothing permanent on my body. Mm-mm.
He doesn't want a starfish on his. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a starfish. But yeah, so you started playing and you recruited Gene and you recruited me, and I remember, dude. I remember being lost in the sauce, and you're pretty much killing slimes, and I think my first character was an archer, but eventually I made another character for a spearman. But yeah, I remember being an archer and like you were helping me like get gloves and like beginner armor or and, like my hat, like the little archer hat.
Yeah, yeah,
Like yeah, you were pretty much leading me. Like I was like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. Like, it was so like RuneScape is endless and it's got depth to it. And you can really go any direction. But MapleStory to me, there is structure, but I was still lost. Like I've never played a game like MapleStory up to that point. And just like how do I say this? Like having equipment with like values that need to be met so you can actually equip them. Because I remember blowing my stats the first playthrough on my character and like jacking up my archer, uh beyond being salvageable. But yeah, so you led me around, and what was do you remember the process of like getting a guild? Like, did we have to be a certain level or anything?
We all had to be in that like the second island, so we all had to go on a boat. like an airship, which is really cool. The airship was really
Yeah,
fun. It was a very
that
social
was
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we all had
The
to be
loading Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say the loading time wasn't cool, but the ship was cool.
yeah. As for the requirement, I think only one person had to be level 30. Might have been everybody, but I think at least you had to have 5 people there to sign.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and this was back when games like physically made you like recruit and bring people to create guilds, right?
Yeah.
Like um yeah, I remember like we did we find a random? Like didn't we get a random to like just like join us too? I can't
Let's see. There
because
was me, you, Gene, and then Gene's little
Nick,
brother.
right?
Yeah, Gene's little brother Nick. And then I can't remember who the 5th person was.
I think it was a rando that we like just paid.
It might have been either a random or it might have been one of the people that actually stuck with us later on. I think it might have been Sin Escobar.
Oh, dude, I remember him. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
I-
He was wasn't he an assassin?
Yeah, he was an assassin. I think we just recruited him and then he ended up just sticking around and being like one of the closer people that we played with
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, he was cool. So yeah, so we formed the guild, and you were the leader.
Mhm.
And then like we were saying off air, Gene's little brother Nick and I, like we were all shooting around like guild name ideas, and I think like we were saying, I think I'm the one that came up with suicide because back then I was listening to like the early 2000s mall emo, from first to last and all that shit. So I love that stuff. So I was like, oh dude, suicide, that's a cool word. And then and then I think Gene was like Neo, and
Oh, it was Nick.
and then
It was Nick that said
yeah, Nick, excuse me. And then like it was blessed, like everyone blessed it. And then we had that cool, I remember like I think the lightning bolt logo.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was so sick, dude. I was so proud of that guild name. It was just the coolest. Like, yo, what's your guild name? Oh, Neo Suicide, dude. Thanks.
I mean, I thought it was pretty cool too. It was fun to have like friends to play with that game with since I was always alone playing that game.
Yeah, and I think looking back, it's like the first game that like I was actually like officially a part of a guild, especially like a friend made guild. Because Fly FF I don't think came until after anyway.
It was way after.
But yeah, way after. So yeah, I think it was like the first like guild I actually had like a personal connection with. And I mean, back then like we weren't really that serious about it. We were just like power leveling, and I just remember us doing dungeons and then always hanging out on our camper chairs.
Yeah.
Much like the one in the studio.
Yeah, the one I'm stuck in.
Yeah, the one you're stuck in. Yeah, the exact one, the green chair, the beginner chair
It's actually very
recovers
thematic.
your mana. Yeah. So, yeah, we weren't like some hardcore, guild that was like everyone needs to be online and we need to check out these bosses. We need to get this loot and this and this. Like we were just kids, playing a free game, having fun. And yeah, I think, yeah, I just think because of that, because it was like the first like friend made guild and stuff like that. I think I have never forgotten that guild. Like I've never forgotten the name. I never forgotten the logo. And I never forgot like, the times we shared in it. Like the players, like Sin Escobar, I didn't. Man, as soon as you said that name, like it came back to me. Like I can picture his character with like the assassin like beanie on his head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I can picture him, dude. Like I remember him. Yeah, it was fun. We met a lot of like people through what the heck was that? You better silence your phone. Yo, man, this is a freaking studio.
I'm not professional. Sorry, you locked me up before I could silence my phone. So,
damn it. Next time I'll take a hammer. So, yeah, like we met a lot of people through this guild.
Yeah,
and some more weird than others.
MapleStory was a very social game. Like most people didn't actually play it to level up and stuff. It was just there to like show off your cosmetics, your character, and just to sit around and just goof off.
Yeah, go to the 7-Eleven, blow like $10 on a Nexon card, and then like do you remember like the girl characters with like the princess hairs and the dresses, or like the Japanese streetwear? Like these like people who played these like decked out characters would just stand in town And you're like, is this all, like, I've been on like 3 quests already. Like, is this all you're doing today?
And the funniest thing was like all these cosmetics were rental. They were only for 90 days.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when you like blessed me or sponsored me the hairstyle, like you did it again. Like I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, the hairstyles are permanent, but like your clothes and your like
Yeah.
wings and stuff, that's all like 90 days.
Oh, I remember like the devil wings and all that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God, yeah. So we met, like I was saying, we met a lot of people, and Gene, if Gene was here, I don't know if he'd wanted to, he would tell you, but he met someone super clingy and
They were kids.
what was her name? What was her name, Trung?
Vampire Vinny?
Yeah, vampire. Like this was like she was an archer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and like this character, you know, she or he, whoever they were, did a lot for our guild.
Mm-hmm.
And like she would even help me. I'll just say she, yeah, because of the name, but like she helped me with some like hard quests because she was a strong archer. But like she would follow Gene like all over the place, and like he would kind of like message like, yeah, hey, I'm with Vinny right now, so like check back later. I'm like, what the fuck?
Like every time you would just like you would, because in MapleStory you could do /find, and you would specifically would find characters. So if you ever type in their names, you would find that they were in the same exact spot together.
Yeah,
and then once you go there, they're just sitting next to each other, just like not talking
with the camp chairs. Yeah,
they're just not talking in the game. They're talking in real life.
Dude, I swear, I think there was a moment where me and you both hunted him down, and we were just like standing there on the edge because it's 2D, so you can stand on like the edge of the screen.
Yeah.
And like not be in someone's focal point until you're like right up on them. So like I think we both like went there and we're like, what the fuck are we looking at?
They're just sitting there.
Yeah,
they're not even talking.
And that's the funny thing too, because like you know, you can /whisper or /guild, and like if you're just sitting there talking to a guildie and you're like AFK, and then like your guildie's AFK or your friend's AFK, it just seems like 5 people are just standing on top of each other, like not doing anything. It was always fun to like run through town and see that from the outside looking in and just be like, God, it's so weird.
They were also like spamming emotes at each other too, like doing kissy faces and stuff.
Yeah, or like the like I'm over it eyes.
Yeah,
like the to the side, like whatever. We did that a lot. I had that on like a hotkey.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, it was the guild was very cool. I would say it was like the anchor point of our gameplay. That's what kept me coming back and playing it, because we were a part of this guild and we were gaming with our friends. Not really much more to say about Neo Suicide than it was a really cool name and it was a kick-ass time.
Yeah, we had a lot of memories coming out of that guild. A lot of people that we don't really talk to them anymore, but they're definitely in our memories, in our nostalgia whenever we think of that game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's just a cool thing about MMORPGs anyway, right? Like I could like same with like this game or RuneScape, and if you were to go on the old game forums and like see people, post about their times in like World of Warcraft and stuff, like there's so much memories built into these games that I think makes them unique. But I know, so beyond the guild, because it wasn't just a guild with MapleStory, but yeah, like Trung was saying, it was, or like he's going to say it's his first Asian MMORPG.
Right.
How would you say, like, what was the shock factor? Like, what was so different? I mean, obviously the graphics, but beyond that.
Like I said, the game is like almost 90% a social game. Even like how your party system worked was really cool. Like in dungeons, you had to have very specific characters to clear dungeons. Like you needed a rogue to go stealth so that you can sneak past these characters. You needed a mage to teleport because in that game you used to not be able to jump down platforms because it's a 2D game. Mages were the only ones that could with teleport. And then every class had like different buffs that they would provide to each other, and it just felt very cohesive, and it actually felt like you were, because I didn't play like WoW and do raids and stuff, like this is the first game where I felt like teamwork mattered and your party composition mattered. So it was really cool.
It was, and there was like no griefing either. Like
Yeah, people
I
were
can't
really nice.
remember. Yeah, I can't remember ever being like targeted during a dungeon or like just like a party quest.
The only thing that was like annoying, if even that ever really happened, was people coming to your map and killing your stuff, and they'd just be like, "CC, please."
Yeah,
And most of the time,
yeah,
they would just leave you alone. There wasn't ever really a case of people being jerks and sticking around and just grief you on purpose.
or like I will say there were the a problem was hackers, and like you'd see some dude like floating in the corner of the map, and they're just like farming.
Oh, dude, speaking of,
Uh,
I remember one time when me and Gene were playing in like the dead of night. You were asleep by then.
I was snoozing.
Yeah, we were playing and we found a hacker. So we both reported him, and within seconds, a GM showed up. And we were kids at the time. We're like, "Oh my god, it's a GM! Holy crap!" And the GM came over, banned the guy immediately on the spot. We're like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And then he came over and talked to us like, "Thank you for reporting." I was like, "Oh my god, the GM talked to us!"
It's like in those it's like in Dot Hack, you know, when a GM shows up or like Log Horizon. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's not fun anymore. We're about to get smoked.
Well, we were like,
um,
it was like meeting a celebrity for us. It was pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think you told me about that.
Yeah, I'm
Because
pretty sure.
I didn't even know that was a thing until you brought it up, and then yeah, I started seeing like people floating and like one shotting everything, and it was nuts.
And they're sucking up all the
Which
monsters in the one spot.
yeah, yeah, because you know it's not instance like everyone shares what's on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of ties into you know what we didn't like about the game. I didn't like the hackers. You know, Nexon didn't really have a like foolproof anti cheat, you know, built in for that game. But you know, it was a free to play game. It's not like we were sinking money into it, and you know, if it drew back from our experience, we could just leave. We could just go to a different map, right? Um,
Yeah.
so it's a lot different than like you know, CS:GO or Valorant, if someone's hacking, you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, you can't leave that match until you're done crying. But yeah, I'd say the hacking was kind of off. Honestly, the cash shop wasn't that big of an issue since it was cosmetic. It was kind of a bummer, like you said. Like most of it was rental. That's kind of strange. So I mean, great, you know, model for them for people who want to spend the money, but that was kind of that is kind of whack looking back on it. And then the game, you know, like a lot of free to play MMORPGs, and nowadays like single player games, if it's made by Ubisoft, it was very grindy at the end, super grindy. Like I think on my assassin, that was the only character that like got close to like level, you know, like 100 or whatever. You made it way farther than I did, Trung.
Yeah, but G made
So
it
you
even
could
further than
probably
us.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So, I mean, wouldn't you agree? Like, it did kinda it took your time to get up
It
there.
basically took like a month to get even like 10% of your EXP bar near the end.
Yeah, fuck. And now, obviously, at least months ago, I saw, like, you know, a new version roll out and, like, you could kinda power level through MapleStory and, you know, get to, like, the end game stuff faster, but back then, like, years ago, uh, that was a weekend fucking gone
Oh yeah.
if you let it happen, right? Um, and I think that's what kind of eventually led us to like we would play like a little bit of it. It wouldn't be like the sole game we were playing anymore towards the end.
Yeah, it was just we eventually just became nothing but a social game for us.
Yep. Let's check on the guild. Let's see who's still online, and then eventually, you know, like the sad ending to all MMORPG like experiences. Everyone kind of just like walks away, right?
Yeah, it just kind of just fades into obscurity and then just don't play it.
Yep. And sometimes you don't get to say goodbye. But yeah, so but you know, there was still a lot to love about the game. Like you said, social aspect, the guild system, the dungeons were really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I the art, like you said, just to hit on that again, the art was really appealing to the eyes, very anime esque. You know, there you see that now in indie games like 2D games. There's titles out there that just look super stellar. like Stone Shard or even Stardew has its own appeal in Terraria. But yeah, the game looked really good um, with the Asian influence to it. And I would say the classes were well thought out. Um, the stats were a little issue. Like you really needed to look up what you were building.
Yeah, like you have to buy
Um,
equipment beforehand and figure out what the
yeah,
requirements were.
because I remember like being behind on equipment because I would have to level up extra time, like a couple extra levels, just so I could match what that equipment needed. But yeah, I would say the classes were well thought out. The skills were cool and flashy, especially for assassins. The weapons were awesome. I remember loving the Steelies, which were the ninja stars.
Hmm.
And like the ices or icicles.
Yeah.
And then for spearmen, I loved like the newbie, like the level 20 spear with like the fish, like the
Yeah.
the metal fish at the end. I loved that design, dude. So it was awesome. Like you really felt like badass, whatever class and armor, whatever class you were, and whatever armor and equipment you had. I really liked that. Um, and like I said, it was like one of our first 2D MMORPGs. We were used to like arcadish games like Gunbound, etc. But yeah, I dug it. I dug the systems and I dug the game, and most of all, I dug playing it with you guys, Eugene and Nick and everyone else we made friends with.
My favorite part of that game was just logging in one day and we would just go to like adventuring, just discovering maps, and then getting absolutely wrecked by monsters we were not supposed to be fighting at that level.
Dude, I remember that and like typing no, no, no. Like we would go as far as we could, and then things were like taking a quarter of our HP just by walking into them. And you're like,
Or you would fall into the golem pit and die immediately.
oh, yep, yeah, I remember that. That stuff. Yeah, I will say the exploration was cool when everything was like new to you, and especially like near the end game where like the like alien
Oh
map.
yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Dude, that was a tough map. Like I remember grinding just so I could like survive and battle there. And like that was one of the maps like Gene helped me out on the most because he was strong enough to like kind of like power level me there.
Yeah.
It was also kind of weird. Like the aliens kind of didn't really fit the lore of MapleStory, if you ask me. Like we're fighting slimes and like monsters and shit, and up to this point, then there's like little UFOs and stuff. It was
But
so weird.
technically you were like a Lego land place.
Yeah,
It was weird.
yeah. It was weird. I remember that dungeon too. But yeah, looking back, would you say like MapleStory does that like shadow any game for you? Like does any other game like 2D MMO stand out for you? Or does that kind of like anchor your memory? Like that's like what you think of when you look back.
Um, Survival Project kind of is 2D if you want to count it that way.
True, it had the more like top down feel, but no, I get what you're saying with that. But like
But realistically, no.
purely MMORPG, like if you want to like break down the attributes of that, like do you think of anything else?
No, not really. MapleStory kind of like was the like put a stamp into that and like was, I don't know, was very solidly first place for that category.
Yeah, I agree. If I look back, um, specifically like that game pretty much like absorbed our time and really propelled us forward like into playing more games together, I think.
Yeah.
And what do I have here? I have purely nostalgic. Um yeah, so if I don't know if MapleStory were to come out today, I just think I probably wouldn't even take a look at it. Um but back then, like looking at it now, from here looking back, I don't really I'll answer my own question. I don't think it's purely nostalgic. Like that game was well built. And Nexon did a good job with the game back then. like the updates and sure, like it had its decline. Like every game, like MapleStory, every free MMORPG had their decline. And then they would bounce back like RuneScape did with its multitude of versions. I know MapleStory had a 3D version, and now they're on the phone as well. I don't know if that's necessarily a callback, or I mean, not a callback, excuse me, a comeback, but I think for what it was back then, it was a good game.
Yeah, I think it's a good game. I really miss the social aspect of the game. With the newer updates of the game, you just play by yourself now. You don't really do the dungeons together anymore and stuff.
It's kind of sad, like a lot of games are moving towards that. Either like say Final Fantasy, it's convenient, especially if like the servers are dead, but like, the auto finders and you can kind of queue and forget.
Yeah.
But MapleStory, it made you physically bring people to form a guild. You physically had to have people at the dungeon to build a dungeon party.
Yeah.
It really forced your interaction. Whether good or bad, whether if the server was dead. But there was people online all the time when we were playing. Like it didn't matter. Like there was night owls, there's different time zones coming in. But yeah, it's kind of sad how that's kind of slowly disappearing. And like the queue system and like the auto class, like you don't have to worry about finding a tank if everyone's a freaking rogue, like it'll just auto populate. But
yeah, there's no games really that really try to capitalize on the social aspect of the game anymore. Like you'd have to go to stuff like VR chat to actually socialize, whereas there's no game that actually really makes you sit down and want to communicate with another person anymore, really.
Yeah, true. I mean, especially games that like offer the easy way out where it's just like mute in-game chat, like League of Legends comes to mind. Not that it's like a RPG or anything, but I just have mute chat because it's toxic as fuck, right? And same with Valorant and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of games give you an easy way out where people have their pre-built parties or like their online communities already, and they're not interested in interacting with anyone outside of their bubble. That's good for them, but people who are sharing the game with them, that kind of blows, right? Like I can think of like Ark or Rust, where like you have these mega fucking Zerg guilds, and you're just like, hey, can we coexist? And then you're dead. So, without hearing a word. But yeah, MapleStory definitely holds a special place in our hearts. And that's all I got. Any final words, Trung?
I would like to get out of this chair.
Yeah, maybe next episode. So everyone tune out to find out Trung's fate. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Trung. It's always a pleasure doing an episode with my bro.
Of course.
Yeah, I hear people tell me that we're pretty funny together.
Oh yeah?
I don't want to toot our horns or anything, but I believe them. So
it's because I'm freaking hilarious, so you're welcome.
Yeah, Trung is definitely carrying the weight here. Even though he's strapped to a chair, it's unbelievable what he does for the podcast.
I literally carried this whole studio.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll do it for the MapleStory episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would please leave a comment or even a star, as a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on, that would help us out a ton. Always love getting feedback and yeah, just feedback in general. Anyway, go to www.couchcatgaming.com to check out everything else beyond the podcast, where we have our YouTube videos posted. If you're not sure where our YouTube channel is, it's there. Where we have blogs posted. We have a huge archive. They age like fine wine, so go ahead and read them. We have guides for simple MMO and a bunch of other simple MMO content. If this episode has scratched your itch for a very casual RPG experience, that's a good place to start and a good game to start with. Yeah, I mentioned YouTube. Be sure to check out our Discord. That's where we are right now, recording this podcast. We have this channel open where you can join and listen while we're recording live. I think that's really cool. Obviously, you can't say anything because you'll be struck down by a bot, but it's still cool to listen It's like a live studio, right? But
Oh
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can ask Trung. He's forced to be here, but you know, he's enjoying it. But we also stream games here like Phasmophobia, Risk of Rain 2, and more like it. We also just hang out and chat. So come on by if you're looking for a new community or if you just want to join another one. We're definitely worth giving a look-see. And then also in the podcast description, such as this episode, you'll see all the links to our social media, the links to the Discord, the links to the YouTube, and the links to the website again. But yeah, that's it. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Later.